Hey Zaka family! Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Cuauhtzin Gutierrez, who is a producer for NBC Universal. Cuauhtzin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Man, the pleasure's all ours. I'm looking forward to hearing about the journey and finding out a little bit more about this NBC life you got going on over here. But I would always like to dive in first and find out a little bit more about your cultural background and where you grew up, so the listeners know.
Yeah, absolutely. So my family is indigenous from what is now called Mexico. So my mom's side is from Durango and my dad's side is from Colima. And, because of colonization, we lost our connection to our original tribes. But I'm lucky in the sense that my parents began the work of reconnecting with their native side. And, me and my brothers have been the beneficiaries of that. And we're now continuing that journey. So we're actually, we're all from LA, but grew up, taking part in a lot of native ceremonies throughout the Southwest US and throughout Mexico. And we grew up with a ton of indigenous elders and teachers from the tribes like the Lakota, Dene, or Navajo, the Chumash, and Kumeyaay, which is, our homies down there were the San Pasqual band of the Indians in the San Diego area. So in short, born and raised Los Angeles in Monterey Park, which is part of the San Gabriel Valley, right next to East LA, and with a lot of time spent in and around reservations from the tribes that I mentioned.
That sounds very cool, man. You read about it in the books, but then when you're a part of it, you're a part of history, and keeping that history, that legacy alive. A lot of times people kind of like push those things to the side. They're like, oh yeah, that was back then. This is now. But I'm glad that you're doing that, and your brothers are doing it as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of how we live our life every day, just with our native side, our indigenous side, is just having a connection to this earth. I grew up going to a sweat lodge as opposed to a church. So that's just how we were raised, and really being part of this natural earth we have and trying to take care of it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And how was your childhood? Could you speak about that?
So my childhood, growing up in Monterey Park, right next to East LA, my mom was a social worker for LA County. My dad was a Chicano studies professor at East LA College. So they were both activists, and, kind of as kids, we were all around just participating in a ton of events. So they would host, they created the Northern Southern Powwow in East LA. They would, host the posadas at East LA College, the Dia de los Muertos events. So, as kids, we were just running around, just having a good time, going to these ceremonies and reservations and meeting a lot of people. And then as we kind of got older, we were, part of the community, we're put to work. So, we were there at 7 a.m. setting up booths and tables and sleeping late at night. And we were the last people out, like at 2:00 in the morning, just breaking everything down. Childhood, I grew up with my older brother and my younger brother. I have an older sister as well. And our life was, pretty chill for the most part. The home life, with my parents, they did the best they could. My mom grew up with a single mother. And my dad came from a family that was very heavy machismo, which is, a kind of standard, maybe I don't want to say standard, but it's a thing that happens all too much in the Mexican communities and the Latinos at large. But, they did the best with what they could, and there was a lot of love. So we communicated the best we could. And one thing that kind of always kind of held us together was the community events, the things that we hosted, or they used to have a lot of parties at their house. So really bringing a lot of people together, a lot of friends and family, just always being around. And going to the movies was something that was a really nice time. You know, that was one time where it felt like nothing else kind of mattered. You know, we'd all go and just have a good time and not really, everything else kind of melts away when you're in that theater. You know, when the curtains open up and the lights go down, you're just like, okay, you're in this story for the next couple of hours, and it's really powerful.
Wow. Sounds like a nice, like, cool little childhood right here. Got a lot going on over there, but that's good. That's good. I mean, you're on the West Coast as well too. You know, do you was it like a pivotal moment that inspired you to be a producer while you were growing up?
I think, like I mentioned, the whole movies thing, going to movies as a kid, and my parents were both also raised in Los Angeles, so you know, not in entertainment in any way or media, but always being kind of close to it. They were both really into cinema. My mom really liked musicals, you know, and my dad was really into like slapstick comedy, like Mel Brooks. So being a kid, they showed us a lot of stuff like that, and it was really cool to just see that. And you know, those were some good times, just hanging out and laughing with the family, and you know, just growing up around those really just fun moments, just kind of surrounded by entertainment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, off the record. Now, what's your favorite movie now?
Ooh,
come on now. I had to throw that in there because I was like, when you were like, and matter of fact, let's go back to a favorite movie when you were a child growing up, because you said you were going to the movies. What was like a favorite movie for you?
Yeah, I really like the Mel Brooks ones, like like Robin Hood, the Kevin Costner one. That was like a cool flick.
Yes,
but then we did the Robin Hood Men in Tights, the spoof version of that, and I was just like, you know, it kind of blew my mind. It was just like, oh damn, you could do this from like a really cool like cinematic story, and then also like the super funny version of it. And it just depends like what angle, you know. So you can take a story, and depends on what angle you want to hit it at. And I was just like, dude, you know, that kind of stuff growing up was really cool. Spaceballs, that was another big one.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
Spaceballs,
those are some
man.
OGs.
Yeah, that's like Goonies or something in that era.
Yeah, so Spielberg stuff, yeah, with the Goonies too. That was a big one. Yeah, it's just funny whenever somebody asks like, "What's your favorite thing?" I don't really have like, as a kid, like all these, you know, you kind of put on the spot. I'm like, shit, what was it? But you know, what got me into film school was when I started watching Stanley Kubrick movies. So that was a little later as like a 18, 19-year-old, but that's really kind of elevated, I like to think, my cinematic experience of just being like, wow, these movies are larger than life, you know, watching The Shining and 2001, Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket. So going through Kubrick's whole library and just being like, you know, damn, those things are blowing me away.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. And I like that, you know, you were just watching movies, but you never knew that you were going to be a producer. You didn't know that it was going to end up in that direction. Now, something I want to ask you on, as you further down the line, like, how did you, with all the grinding you were doing, the process and everything, like, how did you work on finding your voice in the industry? You know, from this young kid watching movies and then, you know, education and traveling and doing all these things to get to where you are. How'd you find your voice?
Yeah, you know, that actually took a while. So my like film career, my video producing career started through skate videos. My dad always had a video camera and like film camera, so he would kind of let us take some pictures and hold them and record for a little bit. So that kind of got me a little familiar with that. And then I kind of just started taking those and with my friends skating out in the streets, just recording all of us, you know, doing our little antics and running around the streets of LA and San Gabriel Valley. And that kind of led to, you know, making our own videos, and some of my friends ended up going, so that was kind of just, you know, hanging out with friends, cutting our little videos together. And that kind of turned into a little professional thing where we made some videos and we ended up selling some in the stores. You know, we got a little distribution deal. And so, you know, as like a 20, 21, 22-year-old, I had some of my skate videos being sold in stores, you know, in all across the US and in Europe and in Asia. And that gave me a good, you know, bit of confidence to be like, I think I can do this. This, like, I'm already doing this, making a little bit of money. So I did that. And then I went to film school and kind of learned the history of it and the whole, the industry behind the whole thing. So when I first started getting my first jobs, it was through homies that I knew through the skating world. They started working at places and they brought me in. And it felt
them connections is clutch.
Exactly. No, seriously, if it wasn't for that, like, I would have never had the confidence to even think that I belonged there. So having, the homies vouch for me automatically, they were like, yo, you can do this. You've been doing this. And it was those kind of moments where it's like, okay, cool. Like, these guys believe in me, so I should believe in me too.
Okay. I like how you talked about the connections. I think that a lot of the guests have truly highlighted that, saying that along their journey, they were able to incline up the ladder because of the authentic relationships that they had with their closest friends and partners. As they incline up that ladder, you could lean on somebody. So the fact that you started off in the skate world and they were like, hey, yo, bro, we want to bring you in. And it just spiraled into something else and it got you to where you are right now. It just goes to show that organic relationship that you had in the beginning, you didn't take it for granted. You didn't know what was going to come from it. It wasn't like you were an opportunist in any way, but you were like, okay, just have good friends. And then boom, it ended up into some more opportunities. So that's really good, and I'm glad that you're highlighting that because a lot of the guests on the show have expressed that. Now, producer, in a sense, is a broad term, right? And I know that some of our listeners listening are probably questioning, like, what does that truly mean, and what are some of the different levels of it? Like, could you educate the audience what a producer does?
Yeah, for sure. But before I do that, I want to go back and touch on a little bit of what you said about those connections and having those people inside to, kind of help lead you. And that to me has kind of been the most important thing. They always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. But those people reached out to me when they needed help. And, these happened to be paying jobs because I had helped them in the past with their skate videos. I was like, look, I'm down for what you're doing. Let me film some clips for you and just donate, basically. So me helping these people out ended up coming back to me. And I wasn't looking for my donation, my time helping these folks to come back to me in any way whatsoever. It just did come back. Like, it took 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. But it was so important for me to be like, okay, I'm doing you a favor because you're a friend and I enjoy doing this stuff. I enjoy the work and it just comes back to you. And that's happened several times in my career. So it's really important, I think, to give back. Sometimes if you feel stuck and you feel like you're not going anywhere, and I still tell this to people today, like, go volunteer, go see where you can help out. You don't have to get paid for every single opportunity. Just go and use your skill set to help somebody else. Because I think when you put that out in the universe, it comes back to you.
Oh, yes, it does. I'm a firm believer in that. It's important to give so you could then receive one day. You have one hand. My father always used to say, you have one hand to give and you have one hand to receive.
That's right.
So I love that.
That's it. So the producer question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get us into understanding like a little bit more about what a producer does.
So I think as a producer, you can be a different type of producer in a lot of different ways. But essentially, a producer can be the person who owns the project from start to finish. Meaning, for example, my role right now, I'm a writing producer. So if I'm working on a segment, I will write the script, I'll hire the talent, I will hire the camera crew, sometimes the editors to finish, working with talent on set. You're kind of the one who gets it from start to finish, from A to Z. So I'll take a project, get it from its inception all the way to distribution. So you're the person that is the mastermind behind the whole thing, the driving force behind the project.
And that's a massive role. How many people do you feel like a producer has to kind of manage, in a sense? It could be a small project or a large project. Do you feel like it's a large group of people? You have to work well with people, I'm assuming, at that point in time.
Oh, absolutely.
You stress that one too. You were like, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest key, in media and entertainment. It's all you got to be a people person, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy learning about people and hearing from people and hearing people's stories. So like what you guys are doing right here with this and learning about folks and seeing what they do, I really appreciate that too. So you can, a project can be anywhere. Like I can produce my own thing as a one-man band. Like I'm doing every single role. So sometimes that makes sense. And then sometimes, I have a crew of 50, 75 people that I'm managing. So it really depends on the project and also the budget, of course. Like how much money you got, right?
That is true. We don't remember that budget is important right there. What does your culture mean to you, and how does like being Latino, and no matter of fact, how is the Latino representation in your industry?
Seriously lacking.
Oh, okay.
In a short form, seriously lacking. I mean, in media entertainment, right now at NBCUniversal, I do a lot of work for NBC, but also Telemundo. So it's really cool that I get to do a lot of stuff in Spanish for that audience. But that audience is very different than the US-born Latino audience. English first for a lot of Latinos is the way it is right now. So we, in that area, we are just very underrepresented in front of the camera, behind the camera, in the rooms where decisions are being made. We don't have a lot of executives at the top. There are very few. So we have a long way to go. And I do my best to try and speak up for our people and raise my hand and bring up things when nobody else in the room has that experience. So it's a matter of, we got to keep pushing, and folks like myself and you guys to keep going and being like, look, we're good. We just haven't been given the opportunities that we should. So now we just got to push and advocate for our people as much as possible.
Okay. I like how you said that you also help people find their voice. Like you speak up for people. That's important, especially as a leader, to help individuals find their voice and to also help make sure that they're being heard as well. Because a lot of times people, especially in the industry, it's a fast paced environment. Some people are like, well, they're not going to hear me out. They're not going to listen to what I have to say. But I'm glad you're finding the time to do that. Now, in your opinion, like what is like a required skill set that you need to possess to be a great producer? Besides, I know you did mention about the whole thing about learning how to work well with different people, but any type of skill set that you think is like a very major one?
Yeah, I think you have to be very nimble and be very fluid and know that, when in pre-production, you do so much work to get stuff ready. And then the day of production or the days of production, there's so many things happening. There's a literal 100 moving pieces. So inevitably things are going to go wrong. And when those things go wrong, you have to be able to keep your cool and think well under pressure and really kind of take those moments to be like, okay, this is happening. How do we fix it? Because at the end of the day, you're burning thousands of dollars per minute that you're there. You have, like I mentioned, a crew of 40, 50 people kind of just looking to you, being like, all right, this didn't work. Now what do we do? So you have to be very open to change and being like, okay, we went in with a plan, but now this plan has changed. So how do we figure it out? Because at the end of the day, whether I'm working for a client or a network, you still got to deliver. So you got to be like, all right, this is happening. Let's get it done. This didn't work. All right, we're not going left. We're going right now. Okay, let's just keep moving forward. So keeping your calm under pressure is a big thing. And yeah, just being very open to it. A nice thing about this business is it's very collaborative, which I like. Some people don't work like that, but I like to be very collaborative, meaning like if you have a good idea, you see something that's happening, tell me about it. Like, oh, this could be a good idea. Let's try it this way. So really, to kind of put it succinctly, just being open to your surroundings and being able to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about going with the flow, like how did your career start in the industry then?
Through skate videos.
But before that, was you like you said, you were doing some stuff like as kids filming, but like when you started off industry, like that first job.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The skate videos kind of led to my job at Fox Sports. Before that, well, I went to Cal State Long Beach for film school, and I got an internship with a guy, just one person. He was doing a lot of celebrity photo shoots. So at that point, I had already worked on skate videos, so I knew a little bit about producing. So he brought me on to help him production manage some pretty high profile shoots for like editorial magazines, for covers and billboards and ad campaigns. So I did that for a little bit. So got some kind of A-list talent under my belt. And then that led to my eventual job at Fox Sports. Mm-hmm. So Fox Sports, I went in as an editor / associate producer. And I was there for two and a half years. And then I got an email out of the blue from somebody at FX Networks. They were building up their digital team, and my executive producer at Fox Sports had passed my name along. So I went and interviewed at FX. I ended up getting that job. And so I was there for another 2.5 years. So my first jobs were basically at Fox, being on the movie lot at Fox Studios.
Yeah, okay. And when you started off, like what are like some of the challenges that you had to overcome to become like a better producer?
I think it took me a while to really trust my skill set.
Okay. Even with all the talents that you had and all the experience you had before, you still had to trust it.
Even with all that, because I felt like once I got to FX, that was the big leagues. That was still going into, I was working on American Horror Story and Sons of Anarchy and The Americans and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, shows that I watched, and now all of a sudden I'm part of it. So, and none of my friends, none of my like close friends or family was in the industry at all. So it was intimidating going into those places and really, being able to. It was intimidating going into those places and not having people that I could look to for answers or ask questions to. Like I didn't have a mentor kind of helping me out or stuff that I could bounce off. I had some good folks some good people along the way who helped me here and there, but it took a while for me to really trust that I belonged there.
Wow. And how long you think that was?
Oof. Too long.
Oh man. It's those listeners are listening in deep right there. They're like, okay, well, it took them some time, but you trusted the process. That was the main thing right there. You trusted the process. You kept moving forward, and you kept on believing in yourself. And you surrounded yourself around some good people, and those opportunities kept on coming your way. And you took advantage of those. So, kudos to you. In your career, I see that you work with some like heavy hitting companies. I mean, Fox Sports, FX, NBC. You even did a project with Disney, Netflix as a client. Like what are like two of the most memorable accomplishments in your career? Because this is like just working with those companies is it's its own thing, right? But like two moments that you could be like, yes, I did that, or I was a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was thinking about this. And I don't think there's a very specific, there's a lot of projects that I work on a day-to-day, and I'm very proud of all the work that I've done. But for me, I still am, it's still a big deal to me that I got to work at Fox. I was every day going to 20th Century Fox Studios. This is a 100-year-old company. Just working on the movie lot, seeing the the giant sound stages with Star Wars and The Simpsons, and you know, being around all this stuff that I watched as a kid growing up, just stepping foot on that lot was amazing to me. And then the fact that I got to do it twice, and now I'm currently at NBCUniversal, and so much amazing content has been produced out of there. And when I walk around and get my lunch, you know, I'm walking by Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. You know, I see Jordan Peele's name for his production company, and it's just like, man, it's, you know, I never kind of take that for granted. And I got to work out of the 30 Rock in New York also, going to that building. You know, it's so historic, and just being like, man, I'm in this. You know, I belong here. So seeing those things are still, to me, every day, just, it's really nice. It's a good feeling.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever feel like you didn't belong?
No, once I got to these places, well, at this point in my career, when I first interviewed for FX, I was very intimidated going to there, because it was a big question to myself of like, am I good enough for this? And, you know, I had to kind of flip that switch and be like, look, they reached out to me. They know that I'm good. And it took a little bit of, you know, self-convincing. You know, I wish I kind of would have had that a little bit more growing up. That's one thing that I would like to do, is to help some of the kids from like Monterey Park and San Gabriel and Rosemead and East LA and Boyle Heights to be like, look, we grew up literally 10-minute drive from Hollywood. We belong in this industry as well. We should be going for these jobs. You know, people come from all around the world to come here. This is our backyard. So trying to, instill, like, empower people that like, yeah, we should be a part of this too.
And you put the time in, so it's not like it didn't make sense at that point in time. It's like, okay, like, I put the time in, let me reap the benefits about it. Now, I also know that
it's still happening.
I see that you also direct and edit as well. How did you come about that? And like, what was like the major difference between, directing and producing?
Yeah, I went to film school for directing, but my background was in producing, editing. So there's a lot of skills that overlap with that. Being a director is nice because you can really focus on the story and working with talent, and working with your director of photography to figure out the blocking and the shots and the angles you want and how everything pieces together. Whereas, if I'm producing that same project, there's a lot more logistics to worry about. Payroll for the company. How much are we going to bring this person on for? What location's going to cost? Does it work with our budget? So there's a lot more that goes into, like, the producing is kind of an overall project ownership. Whereas if you're directing, you can really focus in on the story. So that's one thing that I'm still trying to do today. I said, like, I'm still learning, always learning, but trying to collaborate more with people who have a shared vision. And then the editing is just, I started out editing skate videos. So realizing that the editing is the final step. That's where the story really comes together. And a good editor can make or break a project. So
true. Even with a good shot too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like that's the pacing of everything, like you can get the best footage in the world and have the best scenes, and you think you got everything. But then if you go into the edit and it doesn't work, then it kind of takes everything away. So it's super important.
I like that. You're just really, I like the fact that, again, going back to where you started off, it's the fact that you started off, like that you said, doing the skate stuff, and then all of a sudden now that when you said that you walk down the hallway, you can see Jordan Peele and all these things, like, it is amazing to know that something that was so small became something so big, and it's became your career. And we never know what's in store for us, right? We're just like, oh, we're just going out and following our path. I think I love this. I think and you meet the right people, and then it just leads to the next thing. So you're a producer, but then you're directing, you're editing. It's not like you're not just like settling with where it's at. You're like, let me keep on pushing those boundaries. You seem like that type of person in this game that you're like, what's next? But let me, I love where I'm at right now, but there's more out there for me. And that's the kind of vibe I
Man, Paul,
catch. So.
you said it perfectly. That's exactly where I am. That's a big thing. Is just I love. I'm lucky. I feel very lucky to be where I am, but I also know that I worked my ass off to get here. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still just getting started. I confident in my abilities now, so I'm at the point now where it's like, okay, I like where I am at NBCUniversal and I have a good team, and it's going great. But it's also like, okay, what do I want to work on next? What speaks to me? That's part of the reason why like I'm down here in Mexico right now. Just really getting like connecting with my cultural my ancestry, and these are my people. So trying to advocate for us.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to my next question. Like, speak a little bit more about your production house, American Indigenous Media.
Yeah, I started American Indigenous Media after my job in New York ended. So I kind of took a little bit of a moment to myself, and instead of just jumping into the next job, I really kind of took a little trip. I booked a one-way ticket to Mexico, spent some time and being like, okay, what do I really want to do? And it was during that time, while I was in Mexico, I had a client, an old client that I had worked with on and off for the past decade, kind of hit me up, and he was like, hey, I got some political campaigns that I'm working on. He's like, do you want to help produce some videos? So I was like, okay, cool. So one thing led to the next, and that kind of just got the ball rolling. And I started just working on a lot of political campaigns, and then letting my friends know, people that I've been working with for, again, the past decade, that I was open to work now, that I had started my own thing. So that one thing led to the next, and it just kind of started rolling, and it went really well. And, I learned a lot about running a business, hiring people. There's a lot of, I learned a ton because there's a lot of steps that go into running your own business that I had no idea about before I actually did it. So, getting the clients is one thing, but the actual logistical side and getting everything, getting your paperwork up to speed, having an accountant, doing payroll and all those kind of things, worrying about health insurance. Those were things that were brand new to me. So it was a pretty steep learning curve, but it was fun, and I'm very thankful for that experience. And it kind of one thing led to the next, and I just had some really good clients throughout the years, and it's been a fun journey being an entrepreneur and doing that thing.
And what would you say is the big mission?
Yeah, the mission is pretty simple for me. It's uplifting Indigenous and Latino voices. That's always been my thing, trying to look at everything from an Indigenous, trying to look at things from an Indigenous and Latino perspective, because that's my world. That's where I grew up. And, not pandering or not having things be cliche, and just not having things be cliche, and trying to do things differently than everybody else is doing it. And really, the native stuff and the Indigenous stuff, especially the Mexican Indigenous stuff, is not a lot of stuff that I ever see. So my goal is to really get our stories out there and uplift these voices, and, give some confidence to our people that our stories matter.
I like that. Everyone's story should be told at some point in time. It's just finding the right people to articulate it for you and put it together. And it's a part of your culture. It's a part of your family, so like you doing it and stepping in and helping with that, I think that's beautiful. Like you're like really in the mix of it, Now,
that's what it's about.
Why is like creating like multicultural content like important to you?
Yeah, same thing. It's just telling stories from an authentic point of view, from an authentic lens, being like, we're not trying to sell to you. We are telling your stories from for us, by us. Like, again, like with the Latino thing in Hollywood and the media, it's nothing about us without us. So we're tired of having people tell our stories, like they give you one role, one job out of 50 people, and they're trying to tell a Mexican story or a native story. And like those days are done, you know, like we need to be right there in the forefront. We need to be there from the start. So we really need this authentic representation. Has not happened.
Mm-hmm. And going back over to when we talked about some of the companies you've worked for, like you collaborated with, I know NBC. Like, what is like your current role at NBC, and what are you mainly doing with them?
So at NBCUniversal, I'm a producer at a group called Sky Castle LXTV. So we are essentially the creative agency. We are the in-house creative agency for NBCUniversal Local. So we call it nationwide. So we produce branded and commercial content and integrations, working with a lot of brands for local stations nationwide. So we'll produce stuff for NBC Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Bay Area, Miami. So our content, it's really cool, actually, a lot of the stuff that I get to make. I see it on TV now, which is something, a lot of the work that I do now, I see it on TV, which is really cool. And it's across the whole country. So I make something and somebody in New York will see it like on the morning show. So it's a lot of fun.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a cool group, and we have we're a small team, but it's a lot of fun, and it's been good so far. Really good.
And you have there's a lot of good moments in your day. I mean, you meet a lot of great people. You're in the circle of a lot of amazing energy. But there has to be like some low points in this whole thing. Like what was like one of the lowest points in your career that you had to like overcome?
Yeah, before I got to Fox Sports, when I was working as a production manager for a boutique agency, there was a point around 2008 where I got laid off. The company had to shut down. You know, the 2008 crash, a lot of advertisers pulled money out of the industry.
Yeah, that was a bad time right there.
Yeah, it was tough, you know, and I didn't have a job in media for, you know, I think it was like 8, 9, maybe even 10 months. And it was hard to get work. There was a lot of moments during those times where I was ready to walk away. I was just going to be like, you know what? It's not working. It's not going to happen for me. So that's okay. You know, maybe I'll go be a teacher. I'll go just switch industries and kind of just get a 9-to-5 somewhere else. So there was a lot of points where I was just like, man, maybe it's not going to happen. And that was kind of I don't know if I would say it was a low point, because, you know, I try to put a positive spin on everything. And I would tell myself that it was tough, but, you know, at the end of the day, I got a roof over my head. I got food in my belly. I'll survive, you know, I'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But those moments were, you know, there was a point where, you know, I had some student loans and some credit card debt had racked up, and I had
you put those two together, that's a problem.
I had that, and I had no job, and then I had $150 in my checking account and $100 in my savings account.
And the dream, that you living the dream right there.
Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I took a screenshot of my bank account at that point, and I was like, all right, no more. And, you know, I kind of that's what really fueled me to kind of turn stuff around. And then I just started hustling, man, taking any kind of job I could get.
And I like how you keep using that word hustle. Like you put the grind, like you're willing to put the work in. Like, I like that. The grind, the hustle, you know, in this industry, like things just don't come easy to you. It's not you just wake up one day and someone's like, oh, I want to work with you. Like, you have to put yourself out there. You got to be vulnerable. You got to hustle. You got to grind. You have to keep on evolving as well in order to really scale this industry the way it should be scaled. You know, you could stay stagnant and just constantly keep getting booked for the same type of work every single time. But to move around from like a Fox Sports to an FX to an NBC to a Disney, that shows how versatile you are as the individual you are in this industry. And I think that's important that anyone following behind you pay attention not only to the amazing places that you work for, the people you work for, but knowing that in order to be in those places, you had to be versatile.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a really good point. Just really keep learn new skills all the time. Keep your eyes opened, like opportunities come from the strangest places sometimes, and just be, putting yourself out there and being available for it and being open to it, and being ready when those opportunities come up, because they don't always come up.
That's true. Sometimes you got to make them yourself.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What would you say is be the biggest difference between like a network and like a production company?
One thing that was cool when I was at FX, I worked in the marketing department launching these huge shows, and we would be working for months on a campaign, and we launched like the new season of Horror Story or a brand new show that we were putting out. And as soon as that launches, you're like, okay, cool, that's done. Now we're going to work on this next show. So on the network studio side, it just never stops, Whereas, if I had worked on the TV side or the actual show side, a lot of times those things get canceled, and then you're back on that grind and back on that hustle and being like, all right, well, where's my next paycheck going to come from? Whereas being in-house is like, I know where my next paycheck's coming from. We are, a multi-billion-dollar company, so we're going to keep having work, and we have new shows coming in all the time. So it's just a different way of, it's a different work. It's a different work setting. Like, sometimes it's not for everybody, but it's really cool. And I feel, I'm lucky that I've got to experience a little bit of both.
And what would you think is like an advantage? Like when you're thinking about immigrants, right, and first generation immigrants, right? What do you think is like some advantages that someone of an immigrant background possesses, and it can contribute to like the industry that you're in right now currently?
I think the tenacity. You get in this industry and you can work on these projects, and a lot of these problems or obstacles that come up, it feels like it's a really big deal. But, if you think about your family and where your family has come from, and, what they did to get you here to even be able to get this opportunity in the first place, you're like, oh, this is nothing. Like, I got this, My family had to, cross deserts or go over the ocean or whatever they had to do, right? Sacrifices to get here.
You think twice.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, I got this then. This is nothing, right? And also, I always keep in mind, like, what's the worst that could happen? At the end of the day, you're still going to be alive, This isn't a life or death situation, so it's all good. Like, do your best that you can and just keep moving forward. And you make mistakes and you learn. Just don't do the same mistakes twice and keep going.
And then what would, when you look at your lifespan and all the things that you have done, the people you've worked with, the industry that you're in, the places, companies, large businesses that you have worked with, right? What is going to be in your 5-year goal plan? Like, you've touched a lot of things, my man. Like, you've done a lot, right? And it is a lot more down the line. But like, what would be in your goals for the next 5 years?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I'm cooking up.
I like that. I like what. Talk to me. I'm in the kitchen with you. Talk to me.
So right now, I'm at NBCUniversal, and I'm really proud of the work we're doing in our group, Sky Castle, LX TV. We just launched NBC LX Home. Our shows, Open House, First Look, George to the Rescue, are all doing well. And, looking ahead for the next year, we have the Paris Olympics coming up, and of course the 2024 election, which are both very big drivers for our audience and our business. It's always fun working on these huge projects. We worked on the World Cup the last couple of years. I'm also working with a coalition called Indigenous Peoples Movement, which is just now coming under the umbrella of the Red Road Institute, and it's expanding its reach. So with these organizations, we help bring awareness to issues impacting Indigenous peoples in North America and across the globe. So always love working with those folks, really standing up, again, giving a voice to a lot of people that haven't had those opportunities before and haven't had their stories told. So on my own, I'm expanding a pilot script that I wrote. I'm turning it into a feature film, which I'm looking for funding, and I'm hoping to get into production in the next year or so. And I'm also developing a docuseries about Los Angeles with the homie Javier.
You out here doing it. You going in.
So,
you're not playing no games in the next 5 years.
Yeah, a little busy, but I love it, man. It's fun for me. I love telling stories. I love working with people, collaborating. You know, it's really nice when I get to see a finished product on TV or on the big screen or even on YouTube. You know, just seeing it done and out there and being able to share that with people and, you know, really understanding that, look, even if one person watches it and gets something from it, then job's done. Obviously, I want more people to watch it. And, you know, I've done stuff that's got millions of views. But at the end of the day, if this can touch somebody and be like, yo, that was cool, great. I count that as a win.
Well, Cuauhtzin, man, you definitely enlightened myself as well, as well as the listeners as well, too. Any last words you want to share with the audience?
Just keep grinding, you know, like this comes up a lot in this industry in media and entertainment, but you know, you never know where your next job's going to come from, what you're working on is going to lead to. So just keep going, you know, and that's the advice I listen to for myself as well. It's just like, just keep moving forward, keep hustling, be kind to everybody, you know, just don't be an asshole. Like, be cool with people. Like, respect.
Right.
Yeah,
no, you're right. Being kind goes a long way in this game.
Yeah, be good to people, you know. You don't have to get ahead by doing the bad thing. Just be true to yourself, you know, cliche as it is, but
and I know when you talked about putting in the work, grinding and stuff, like that's when people got to understand, like, you know, ultimately you got to become a leader for yourself, and more importantly, a leader for your community. And you definitely have done that, and you're willing to step into those leadership roles, because grinding is just, you could be running in circles grinding, right? But you want to grind to kind of like, you know, scale, to grow. And I think that with you becoming a producer, you know, and other fields as well too that you've scaled in, it's helped you along the way. And by being a really good student, you know, your journey and just listening to this conversation that we have here, like, you're always learning. You're always picking up new skills. And those new skills, you don't just learn it for that time frame. It seems that you carry that new skill over to the next place. And that kind of helps and to scale. It also helps you to develop, like, have a leg, you know, in this industry. You know, you're not just walking in and starting all over again. You're like, no, I'm Cuauhtzin. This is where I am. This is where I'm going to be the next couple of years, if given that opportunity. So kudos to you. Congratulations on all the work that you've been doing, and also for your community as well, like being able to put on for your community. You know, you're at a place right now where you can. You know, some people make it and they're like, I don't even give back. You're giving back. So congratulations, much love, much respect. Thank you again for this being on the show today, and really just expressing all the things and within your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Greg, and all the Zaka team out there. We appreciate it. You know, you guys are doing some good work too. So, big ups to everything that's going on your guys' side. We all appreciate it for sure.
Man, thank you so much. And I want to let this know, if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Cuauhtzin, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow our social at Zaka Connect, and follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts.